Hello everybody, I just wanted to bring your attention to this if you weren't aware that this is out. Uncut Magazine. This has just come out in the UK and I think it's available in all sorts of countries across the world. And it is the Paul McCartney 80th birthday celebration edition. It's a little bit early, but something's got to kick off the celebrations, hasn't it? So I'm just going to give you an idea of what's in here. If this is something that you are interested in picking up, then you would be able to do that via your usual ways of collecting magazines. As always, Uncut Magazine comes with a free CD that's got, if you're familiar with Uncut Magazine, there's not going to be any surprises as to which artists are on here. But you've got songs from the likes of Wilco, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Robert Plant and Alison Krauss, Lamb Chop, Robert Wyatt and Bjork, amongst others. And it's described as 15 tracks from the greatest albums of Uncut's lifetime. So the cover, obviously Paul McCartney, it's also their 300th edition. I used to get Uncut Magazine every month, and nowadays I just tend to get it if there's something that particularly catches my interest on the front cover. But congratulations Uncut Magazine on 300 editions. I'm going to show you roughly what's inside of here, not in too close a detail because, as I often say, I would encourage you to buy it if you're interested, but I'll give you a flavour of what's in here. There's a lot other than just the McCartney stuff. So straight away off the bat, if any of you have been reading Uncut over the years, there's quite an interesting visual there of all 300 covers that they've had since their first edition from May 1997. So it's the 25th anniversary as well. So that's interesting if you, like for me, looking back and remembering which ones that I had. I'm going to pick out a few highlights. The McCartney section is towards the back, but just to show you other things that you might be interested in potentially. There's a feature here on T-Rex, A Year in the Life of, focusing on 1972. So obviously that being 50 years ago. There is a good article on Jimmy Page and basically what he's been up to in the last 25 years since Uncut Magazine started. So there's new interviews with him, Q&A and all sorts of things about what he's been up to in recent years. So that looks pretty interesting. There is a very nice David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust era section here, just focusing very much on the Ziggy Stardust era. Again, you know, we're looking at about 50 years out since that, so you can understand why they're focusing on that kind of thing. But that's there's a few pages of this, which is definitely worth a look if you're a Bowie fan. We're coming on to McCartney soon, ladies and gentlemen. There's then a section, an interesting read, the 300 best albums of Uncut Magazine's lifetime. So we're basically talking the last 25 years. Of course, it's opinion, that's all it can ever be. But it's there's some interesting stuff in there. The number one album is an absolute banger. All I'll say is it's by somebody absolutely very major, and it was a massively important album at the time when it came out, and there was a shock across the world relating to the number one album. That's as much as I'll say. I'll let you find out what the number one is for yourself. There is then a very nice feature on Bob Dylan, and it's basically looking at the early New York period of Bob as he was sort of finding his feet in the industry and sort of moving towards his first album. The Greenwich Village kind of era of Bob Dylan of 1961, 62, etc. So that's a really nice article. And then, yes, the meat and bones of what we're here for. The Paul McCartney at 80 article. So this runs 12 pages. I've had a look through it. I've not read it all yet, but I have had a look through and it's very interesting. It's mainly focusing on friends, people in the industry, people who he's worked with, and telling their stories of working with Paul and knowing Paul over his career. And it does it by decade. So let's just show you that very nice photograph there. Sort of a McCartney 3 era photograph, but it does it by decade. So you can see we've got the 50s there. There's not a great deal to say about the 1950s, but we've got Len Gary and Colin Hanson from the Quarrymen there, giving some recollections of Paul from the 1950s. You've then got a section that naturally takes up a lot of space, the 1960s. And again, it's like I say, it's recollections from people who were around at the time and working with Paul and knowing Paul. So you've got, just to pick out some key names, Klaus Vormann. You've got Dick Lester, who of course directed the first few Beatles films. Jürgen Vollmer from Hamburg. We've got Pattie Boyd. We've got Lulu. Howie Casey, who of course from Liverpool worked with the Beatles in the very early days and then toured with Paul in the 70s. In the 1976 tour, you've got Brian Wilson there, Mike Love, Ringo. And then it moves on to the 70s. Again, recollections from people, Pete Townsend, Denny Sywell, Michael Lindsay Hogg, Lawrence Juba from Wings, Robert Plant. So there's lots of really good memories in here. There was one interesting one that I read, which is from Nigel Godrich, obviously moving more up to date there, the producer of Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. Famously, there was some tension between the two of them. Nigel Godrich is a man who's not afraid to tell it as he sees it, and that led to some tensions with him and Paul. But Nigel gives a very sort of interesting recollection of working with Paul McCartney during that period. Yeah, 12 pages there. That is a very interesting article on Paul McCartney TT. I'm sure we're going to have lots more over the next few months as we build up to June 18th. And of course, it's going to be Glastonbury there. Still, I really have concerns about how that's going to go. Fingers crossed. Let's just say I'm going to keep off social media that night because it ain't going to be pretty. But will we get any specific music releases from Paul McCartney around his 80th birthday? He's not been known for tying big releases in to big birthdays. It's not something generally that's happened, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen on this occasion. There's still time for archive collections to be announced in time for his birthday. Whether that's going to happen or not, there's still no news on that, but we shall see. But Uncut Magazine, it's out now if you want to try and get hold of that, if that's of interest to you. And let me know whether you're going to be getting this down in the comments or any questions that you've got about this magazine. And I will see you again very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.